Did you know that as podcast hosts, we are constantly selling ourselves, selling the idea of people listening to our podcast, selling our content, even if we have nothing that can be exchanged for monetary value, we are still selling something. And it can feel really frustrating trying to sell our podcasts and get people to listen to our show right now when there is so many other shows that they could be listening to. That's what we talk about today with Morris Sims. I had the pleasure of being on Morris's podcast. We'll make sure we have that linked in the show notes and the YouTube description. But please join me in welcoming Morris to the podcast to talk all about his podcast and why selling is so important. Welcome to Podcasting Unlocked, the show for purpose-driven podcasters. I'm Alicia Galati, founder of Galati Media, and I'm here to share actionable strategies to help you amplify your message and grow your audience. Hello, Morris. I'm so excited to have you on the podcast. So if you could start by telling everyone who you are, what you do, and a bit about your show.
I'll be happy to, Alicia. First of all, thank you for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity to be out here with your audience and to talk about podcasting, one of my favorite things to do. It's become wonderful. I run Sims Trading and Consulting. I do one-on-one consulting with business owners to help them figure out exactly what it is they want and why, and then how they're going to get there, the strategy, and then implementing that strategy with a strategic action plan. In part of what I do there, I build digital courses for folks to use where it doesn't necessarily require me and them one-on-one, but other things they can do on demand. So we're working on one of those right now. Other than that, I'm just enjoying my podcast and trying to get better on LinkedIn and social to promote everything, because that's certainly a big part of it. Yeah. And what else? We talk about business owners. Our audience is designed to be, because with podcasting, you never know who really is listening out there. Yeah. Our show is designed to be for business owners who are, like many of us, who are looking for new people to talk to begin the process of working together and having to kind of do it probably with a very small team, if any, and how to increase your revenue and have more time to enjoy it. I think that's the biggest challenge most of us have when we're trying to run our own business and do our own thing is, okay, I'm working as hard as I possibly can. I'm working 7 days a week. I barely have time to do anything else. I need to increase my revenue, but I can't do it by adding more time to the work. So how do I increase my revenue? And then once I do that, how do I have some more time to be able to enjoy that increase in revenue? Because you can make all the money in the world, but if you don't have time to enjoy it, to be with family and friends and get out there and do the fun things in life, what's it worth? What's it good for?
I love that. And I had the absolute pleasure of being on your show. We'll make sure that we have that linked in the show notes for anyone who wants to hear that kind of crossover episode. But when I talked to you, I knew I absolutely had to talk to you about your podcasting journey. So tell me a little bit about why you started your podcast and what people who are listening can expect. But I do want to kind of get into more about your expertise as well as we're kind of going through that story about why it's important for business owners when they're trying to create more revenue and alleviate some of their maybe time constraints to have a podcast as an avenue, why you might recommend that. But let's get into why you started your podcast and kind of what conversations you're having over there.
Sure, be happy to. I started, let's put it this way, when I was about 17 years old, I wanted to be a disc jockey and I started hanging around radio stations. And I tell you, I'm still a very frustrated 1974 disc jockey. So that's kind of what led me to audio stuff. In my professional world, I ran the training department for a large mutual life insurance company out of New York. We decided one day, my team was all gathered around a laptop and a speakerphone and said, "What in the are you guys doing?" And I said, "Well, we're doing a webinar, Morris." And from there, I said, "Gee, that looks like something we really ought to get into with a virtual classroom." I learned that's what you call that. So we built a studio.
Nice.
It had laptops and a speakerphone and all of that sitting on top of apple crates in the basement of the building. That turned into a full-blown studio with 4 different computers, 4 different places, and we all had pro football commentator headsets with microphones and the whole 9 yards. 30 grand worth of my company's money went into building that. And we wound up building another one. It became really a big deal. But it was so much fun. I chose to host all of them myself, which my team was not really excited about, but I did it anyway. And we had such a good time with it. When I retired in 2016, I said, I need to do this myself. So I'm going to invest in the gear and the stuff I need to do to be able to do my own podcast. What I found out was by that time in the world of technology, for less than $500 or so, I was able to get, at that time, the top line audio and video stuff that I needed to be able to produce a podcast. And today, my word, you can do it with the camera on your laptop and the microphone on your laptop if you want to.
Right.
And for not much more, you can increase the audio quality with a decent USB microphone. And then you move into, wow, I could use a real DSLR and a light for less than $200. You can have lighting and a good camera and great audio. Audio is still the key. Audio is still the king in podcasting. Even if I'm on YouTube with a video, nobody's going to listen, right?
Right.
So you got to have good audio, and that's where you start with it. But with all that being said, I started my podcast, and it has evolved from there. You learn from trying and do it. The key to starting a podcast is to remember that perfection cannot stop production.
Right.
Production over perfection every time. You got something, it's out there. I first started editing stuff and I was trying to get out, let's take out, he went, let's take that out. Finally realized that reality is much more important and much more enjoyable than overproduction. So I stopped editing the content for the most part and just let it be. People talk the way people talk, and sometimes they take their time and sometimes they go, and that's who we are,
Yeah.
and I want to be authentic in my show. So I stopped taking a lot of time to do that. And now all of a sudden I can record a podcast, produce it, have music on the front end, music on the back end, a hook on the front, which is just where I cut a little slice out of the show and start off with that. Then I've got a pre-recorded intro and a pre-recorded exit. And I record the show in 30 minutes. And in the other 30 minutes of that hour, I produce it and publish it. And I can schedule it for some time in the future. Right now, I've got shows scheduled through the middle of October, and I've got recordings scheduled with other guests and for myself easily into January.
Nice.
So it can work. Now, I will share this. I use podmatch.com in order to help guests find me and me to find guests every day. So I can go in there and message them and say, this is my show. This is what I do. If you'd like to be a guest, here's the link to schedule a time. That's all it takes. That's all it takes. So podcasting is not a huge amount of work. It does take some time, but in what? Alicia, I don't know what your experience has been, but within a couple hours a week, I could put one show out.
Yeah.
Right now I'm doing 2 a week. I do one on Wednesdays that's an interview, and then I publish one on Fridays that is just me talking about business and sales in particular. One of the things I love to talk about and love to teach people is professional sales. So I talk about that a lot on Fridays and just have a good time doing it. It's a blast.
Yeah, I'm definitely finding that more and more. We have one client where they are a lot more video intense. And so they're taking several hours to perfect it. And we're pulling in clips because it's like a journey through this leader's life. And it's big leaders, right? So it's everyone from big Parisian jewelry designers all the way through to Hall of Famers, right? So very big name people where we're pulling in photos and sliding back and forth. So we're looking at anywhere from 8 to 12 hours of work a week to create all the assets, upload all the things, get everything going. And that's a lot more intense. But for a podcast where you are like, look, done is better than perfect, and I just need to get my voice out there. And to your initial point of like, how can I spend more time doing the things that I want to do? And is a podcast going to help me achieve that goal? It might, right? Like, okay, cool. But like, how perfect, quote unquote, does this need to be to achieve the goal? Let's meet that requirement and then move on, right? Like, it doesn't have to be as intensive as some of the clients that we have. I mean, but that's why they come to us. Like, hey, help.
You want to produce a show like that, you need help.
Right.
Unless you're an audio and video production specialist, which I am not, you're going to need help to do something of that magnitude. But if you're just trying to get out there and get your message out and actually have the mindset of, I want to be able to do something that's going to help other people.
Yeah.
I think that's key to sales. I think that's key to business. In today's world, being selfish about who you are and focus totally on yourself and oh golly, we could talk about this for another hour all by
Right.
itself. But we got to be out there to help other people. And when we're doing that, then it becomes a whole lot more fun. And first thing I ask a guest on my show before I press record, and you have to remember to press record. It's
Right.
very embarrassing to get to the end of a podcast and have to say, "Gee, that was great. Can we do it again?" And I've been there, done that. That's how I know. The first thing I ask them is, "What can we do to make sure that this show meets your objectives?"
Right.
I want to help them. I want to help my guest. I want to help the people who are listening. I want to be able to add value to all of that. And that's my main focus in the whole shooting match, is being able to do that. If I can do that, then I'm a happy camper.
And I think that that also adds to like the guest's desire to be reciprocal, right? Like after being on your show, I was like, I definitely need to have you on mine. Like, let's keep this conversation going because one, you're genuinely a very kind person and I really had fun. So I would love to cross promote you, right, to my audience and get you in front of my people. And I think that that's such an important part of like going into it with like, all right, I want to serve my audience first and foremost. But if I'm going to be having these conversations and facilitating this, how can I make this beneficial for everyone involved? Now, you did mention that you do guest episodes and solo episodes. I recently shifted to twice a week this year. And this is after a few years of just doing weekly and kind of alternating where it was like, all right, this Thursday I have a guest, next Thursday solo, and then swapping back and forth. But this year it's Tuesdays, Alicia only, and then on Thursdays having a guest.
Yeah.
I'm curious how that's working for you and what you're maybe finding or enjoying about that, or maybe not liking.
Well, it's been a lot of fun. I am not only a frustrated DJ, I'm also the biggest ham you've ever seen. So put me in front of a group of people and I'm going to talk as long as they'll let me. So with that in mind, the solo part has been fun for me. And I'm able to focus on what I think is vitally important in today's world, and that is the whole professional sales process. Sales has gotten such a bad rap over the years. We see Glenn Ross, and that kind of crap that's out there. And you see the boiler room movies and the funny salespeople on TV that have the very loud plaid sports coats, and they're
Right.
all, crappy people. And it's just, what can I do today to earn your business, Mr. Sims? That kind of junk that just gives people a bad idea about what it all is about. So I get to talk about sales and my perspective on that, which is professional sales versus amateur sales. And the professional doesn't do those kind of things. The professional is out there in order to help people, to help the folks they're working with, because they realize that one sale isn't going to make or break their career, but they also realize that they can do all they can do, but the buyer, the client, the prospect still makes the decision to buy or not to buy. I can't make a sale, Alicia.
Right.
Only the prospect can decide to buy or not. I can make sure that I've done everything possible to help them, make it easy for them. But once I've done all I can do, then it's up to them to say, yeah, I want your service or your product or not. And that, I think, is something that's missing in the concept of sales out there. So it gets to the point of realizing that we're all in sales.
Yeah.
Every last one of us. I don't care what you are or what you do. The best salespeople I've ever met are moms and dads of toddlers and teenagers.
Yep.
Oh my God. We were talking just a minute ago. Your kids are still in that wonderful age where you've got a little bit of influence on them. Mine are 35, 36, and 41, 42. They make their own decisions. And I'm just lucky if they choose to spend some time with me and their grandmother. So,
Yes.
but growing up, my wife Carla was the best salesperson in the world when it came to helping those kids we needed to know and to help them get to where they needed to be. But in the boardroom, I sat in many boardrooms in my company with the CEO and people in the C-suite, and it was all about sales. Whether I was trying to get another $1,000,000 in my budget or whether I was trying to promote a particular program I wanted to produce, it was all about sales. It is every little bit of it is about sales. If you're selling a product or a service or you're selling yourself, the key part is that sales means you're trying to help the person get what they want.
Right.
You're not trying to push, pull, or manipulate in any way. So, long answer to a short question. The fact is, the solo shows are generally all about my perspective on sales and how you can use that perspective to help you improve your revenue and have more time to enjoy it.
Yeah. So when we think about podcasters, right, this podcast for podcasters, when we're selling, even if we might be not selling a product or a service, we're selling our podcast. We're selling
Yeah.
people on the idea of listening to the content that we've created. What are some maybe practical strategies that you're finding are working really well for getting people and to sell their podcasts, right? Of like, here, I want you to listen to what and I say sell, like selling the podcast, like we're selling it to a sponsor. No, like I literally mean, I want new listeners and I want to sell this idea of listening to my podcast. What are some practical ways that maybe we could do better at that instead of just being like, here's my podcast, okay, bye.
One of the beautiful things about podcasting is that I learn more than I teach. I learn more from my guests than they teach. It's amazing. And I had a guest on the show not too long ago who said something that I've repeated 100 times now. It used to be in the world of business that it was all about who you know. People would tell you that. It's all about who you know, Morris. You need to increase your network. In reality, this gentleman taught me that in today's world, it's not so much about who you know, but who knows you.
Hmm.
And podcasting allows you to get out so that more people will know you. And then there's better opportunity that you might enter into a business conversation with someone. When it comes to getting more listeners, more people to actually watch the podcast, I haven't done a very good job of that. I still get a nice set of downloads every week. I'm not Joe Rogan. I don't have millions of followers. It ain't going to happen. He has less hair than I do, and that's important.
You're right.
But the fact is, once you get rolling, you set up some systems, things you do repeatedly the same way every time, processes that once you set it up, it happens much more rapidly than when you have to think about each step. When you use a system properly, it produces positive results. So I'm just now getting a much better system to put my podcast out there in front of people so that they know there's an opportunity for them to listen, so that they will know my podcast and know me to some extent. So I'm using social media, LinkedIn and Facebook, and I'm writing articles on LinkedIn. I just published one today, and the system is that that's going to happen weekly going forward. A LinkedIn newsletter, a LinkedIn article is something that not a lot of people are doing right now, but yet it's something a lot of people are looking at.
Right.
I looked at it today, and I hadn't done one in a while, and I know we're doing this probably a number of weeks before it'll be published. But when I looked at it, I hadn't published an article or a LinkedIn anything in a while. I had like 1,500 followers
Wow.
on my news. I'm going, what?
Yep.
And that newsletter that's going to be published on this coming Saturday morning is going to go out to those 1,500 people and be out there in the public as well. So just little things like that can make a lot of difference in what you do and how you do it. I'm embedding mid-roll. There's a way with my publisher that I can record a short snippet and the publisher will insert it into every podcast I have in their system and every podcast going forward until I stop it. So I can use that to kind of advertise a little bit and say, hey, if you like the show, would you please share it with somebody?
Right.
If you would just please share it with one person this week, and that too is another way to multiply the audience that you have today and help them be raving fans out there sharing your work with other people. Again, helping you to become more visible to the world and helping more people know you. And when they know you, they know about your show and they might just listen.
Yeah, and I think it's so important too because there's only so much that we can do as people to get our name out there. And so I love what you said at the beginning of the answer was that it's not about who you know, it's about who knows you. And as someone who does not like going to in-person events, who has a smidge of social anxiety and is a very diehard introvert. These conversations are so much easier for me to have than going and being in groups of people. And so finding ways of like, okay, well, how can I just get more people to know me? Okay, guesting on other people's podcasts. Like you said, letting my audience know, hey, if you like this episode, share it with a friend because that's still a great way to get new listeners. I'm actually going to, and I'll be in the middle of this as this when this episode comes out, but I'm actually going to be leaving social media to focus my attention instead on guesting on more podcasts and doing workshops in more communities because those are the things that light me up and get me excited, right? So, like, all right, let's just double down on the things that are getting results and are working for me as a person, right? But they might not work for you and you're testing your things. And I love the LinkedIn article idea because I think that, like you said, a lot of people are not doing it or they started it and they stopped and it goes right to their people's inbox and Google will actually rank those as blog posts higher than your own website blog posts, right? So there's so many juicy benefits to it. Getting your name out there in a way that feels good to you, that works for you, and also aligns with what your capacity is, right? Because if you didn't have capacity for it, then it might not be the best option because you do want time to live as well.
Two things strike me to share with you and your audience today.
Yeah.
One is the whole idea of getting in front of groups of people. What is it? Over 75% of the population today, when surveyed, said, gee, last thing I ever want to do is talk in front of a group or speak in any way to anybody, anywhere, anyhow. And yeah, I understand that. I felt the same way when I started out and then suddenly realized that I've got to
Mhm.
get out in front of people. I have got to be a better person in front of groups if I want to get myself out there and to move up in the work that I do. Now, Mary Kravitz is a friend of mine. She was on my show, and she does a whole thing about how to get in front of more groups of people, how to speak in front of groups of people. And Mary is very, very good at that. So I'll give her a plug
Yeah.
there. But Mary is a really good friend and she's got some really good stuff. Another friend of mine that taught me what I know about speaking in front of groups, Dr. Randy Marshall, just created a whole set of content and he and I published it together as a digital course that we're going to release that is free, literally. Randy is 77 and sadly enough, he's dealing with cancer.
Mm.
And he wants to leave this. He's been teaching these concepts for, I don't know, probably 50 or 60 years, 50 years, I guess. And he taught me this stuff, and we've taught it to a bunch of people, but we put it into a digital course. There are 5 videos and 5 lessons. And Randy said, I don't want to make any money on this. I don't want anybody to have to pay for it. I don't want anybody to be given an opportunity to contribute to my charity. I just want to put it out there and have more people see it. So we're going to be releasing that. In fact, again, by the time we're produced,
Yeah.
it will be released and out there in a number of different places.
Awesome.
It's a quick 12, 13-minute video with a workbook and a transcript and an audio file and everything else you might want to have in a digital course. And it helps you learn how to present yourself and to build a message,
Hmm.
to build that presentation and do it professionally and well so that everybody will listen. In fact, that's the title of the course, How to Talk So People Will Listen.
Which I think is very relevant for podcasters, right? Who are trying to have people listen to what they're saying.
And the basic basis of the entire thing is ethos, pathos, and logos. know your stuff. That's the logos part. You got to be credible. But the real foundation is not only what you say, but how you say it, your body language and everything else. Just the idea that, hey, it's a good idea to smile. You get in front of a group of people in an audience, you need to be happy about them.
Right.
You love your audience. You care about them. You want to do well with them. They're there and they want you to do well. And when you have that mindset to begin with, it takes away a lot of the anxiety. I think it's vitally important, and I think you do need to know how to do it right.
Yeah, for sure. Morris, this has been so much fun hearing about your podcasting journey, getting those practical tips for us to grow our show, to be more influential with our messaging and what we're trying to achieve. If people are like, yes, I want to learn more from Morris, please and thank you. Where can they go to listen to your podcast or potentially work with you, find out more about what you're doing in the world?
Well, the podcast is The Commission Code, and it is on everything out there from Apple to Spotify. So you can search for my name or Morris Sims, or you can search for The Commission Code, and it does show up. That would be where you can find the podcast. My website is morrissims.com, and it is not up to date, but it is out there, and you can use that to contact me and go from there. Or my email address is sims.rm2017@gmail.com. And in the good advertising fashion, I'll say that was sims.rm2017@gmail.com. So you can always email me and I'll be happy to respond as best I can. Thanks for asking.
Yeah, of course. And we'll make sure that we have your LinkedIn as well for people who want to subscribe to your newsletter, which, like you said, comes out Saturday mornings. So we'll have something to look forward to for our weekend. Those wonderful professional sales tips that we all need because we're all selling something, like you said. Morris, thank you so much for being on. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Alicia. And I will mention one more thing, if I may.
Yes.
I am in the process of building a professional sales course. Again, a video-based digital course that is going to take folks all the way from, what is the foundation? What is the mindset of a professional salesperson versus an amateur salesperson, all the way into the 6 steps of the sales process and how you do that with the prospect in mind instead of yourself. Because again, all we can do is the best we can do to make it easy for the prospect to buy. Because you know what, Alicia, we all love to buy. I mean, look at Amazon. We love to buy. The Amazon guy knows my name. He comes to my door several times a day. It's crazy. We love to buy, but we hate to be sold. We love to buy, but we hate to be sold. So that means how we go about this process of selling has to be different than the age-old stereotypes that are out there. And that's what this course is designed to do. So again, Alicia, thank you for having me on your show today.
Yes. And we'll make sure we have that linked when it's ready. I'll share it with my newsletter because I think that it's so, so, so important. So thank you so much, Morris.
You're very welcome.